The lights blaze across the diamond as music pounds through the stadium speakers, not the usual organ melodies of old-time baseball, but the booming beats of hip-hop and pop anthems that make the crowd rise to their feet. This is not the traditional beginning of a baseball game. This is the opening act of something entirely different. From the moment fans step through the gates, they are not just spectators, but participants in an unfolding performance that refuses to let them sit still. Children in banana costumes dance in the aisles, grandparents clap along to choreographed routines, and everywhere you look, joy is erupting as though the stadium itself is alive. The Savannah Bananas are not simply here to play 9 innings of America's pastime. They are here to deliver a spectacle scripted with the same care as a Broadway production, a world where every cheer, every laugh, every gasp has been designed, rehearsed, and timed to perfection. What began as a struggling baseball team in Georgia has become an international sensation, rewriting not only how a game is played, but how entertainment itself can be imagined. And behind the chaos, behind the madness, lies an intricate story of vision, daring, and relentless creativity that transformed the ordinary into the unforgettable. It began in the quiet desperation of decline. Baseball, once the heartbeat of American culture, had begun to lose its rhythm. Stadiums were emptying, young audiences were turning away, attention spans were being devoured by glowing screens, and the timeless game appeared too slow for an impatient world. Into this void stepped Jesse Cole, a man in a yellow tuxedo who refused to accept the death of wonder. To most, his ideas sounded like madness. Choreographed dances on the infield, players arriving on stilts, umpires moonwalking across home plate, pitchers serenading fans before throwing a strike. But Cole understood something deeper. He knew that people no longer paid only for a score, they paid for an experience. He saw that entertainment was no longer a companion to sports, but its rival. And unless baseball could compete with TikTok, with Netflix, with endless streams of content demanding attention, the game risked being forgotten. So he decided to shatter the rules, to strip baseball of its solemnity and rebuild it as theater, a stage where players were both athletes and performers, where every night was a story, every inning an act, and every fan a character within the grand design. The transformation was not cosmetic. It demanded a rewriting of the very fabric of the sport. Where other teams studied scouting reports, the Bananas studied scripts. 50 storylines could be prepared for a single game, each crafted to surprise, delight, and overwhelm the senses. One night might feature a mock wedding at home plate, complete with vows, music, and a kiss that brought the crowd to its feet. Another might see a player walk to the batter's box carrying a flaming bat, sparks trailing through the evening air as gasps turned into cheers. Grandmothers would be pulled from the stands to dance mid-game with players half their age, while toddlers would toddle across the base paths as part of carefully rehearsed chaos. The unpredictability was real, but the planning behind it was meticulous. What seemed like spontaneous fun was often the result of hours of rehearsal as players drilled dance steps alongside batting practice, memorized comedic cues alongside pitch sequences, and prepared to deliver theater as intensely as they prepared to deliver hits. The dances became the most iconic signature of all. A pitcher would step off the rubber, spin into a routine lifted from viral TikTok trends, and be joined by his teammates until the entire infield pulsed in synchronized rhythm. The crowd roared not only for the athleticism, but for the audacity. These men had trained their bodies for sport, and yet here they were, unashamed, blending sport and art into something new. The spectacle erased the barrier between athlete and entertainer. It was no longer enough to throw 90 miles an hour. You had to do it while remembering the choreography to a line dance that would play out before thousands of gleeful fans. The exhaustion was real, but so was the exhilaration, for the players knew they were not simply part of a team, they were part of a show unlike any other in the world. Traditionalists scoffed. They accused the Bananas of mocking the sacred rituals of baseball. Major League Baseball, governed by rules as rigid as the chalk lines on the field, seemed worlds apart. Where MLB demanded silence for the seriousness of the game, the Bananas demanded noise, laughter, dancing, chaos. Where MLB honored the slow unfolding of strategy, the Bananas chopped time into electrifying bursts. They even rewrote the rules entirely in Banana Ball. Games capped at 2 hours, foul balls caught by fans counted as outs. Walks turned into sprints where runners dashed toward first as the defense scrambled to touch the ball. It was baseball turned inside out, a carnival of invention, and yet it resonated. The world was watching, sharing clips online by the millions, marveling at how a game once dismissed as too slow had become a viral spectacle. But behind the lights and laughter, the madness exacted its toll. Players spoke of the strain, of memorizing dance routines deep into the night after grueling practices, of juggling identities as serious athletes and comic performers, of feeling torn between pursuing professional dreams and serving the larger script. Some thrived in the duality, finding liberation in performance. Others struggled, questioning whether they were still playing baseball or merely acting out a parody. Yet all of them understood the stakes. To be a banana was to be part of something larger than yourself, a movement that challenged tradition, mocked convention, and insisted that joy could matter as much as victory. The fans responded with devotion. Tickets sold out months in advance, waiting lists grew into the hundreds of thousands, and entire families traveled across the country simply to glimpse the madness firsthand. For many, it was not about the score at all. Children left clutching memories of dancing with players, couples left recalling the laughter of watching umpires cartwheel across the field, and grandparents left saying they had never experienced such pure delight in a ballpark. The Bananas had succeeded in their revolution because they understood a truth deeper than sport. People remember feelings more than facts. They remember the joy, the surprise, the community of shared wonder. And in that way, every scripted skit, every rehearsed dance, every outrageous moment carried more weight than the final tally of runs. The phenomenon spread beyond Savannah. Soon the Bananas were touring, bringing their show to historic ballparks, including the hallowed grounds of Fenway Park in Boston. There, under the shadow of baseball's most traditional cathedral, the Bananas performed their musical madness, proving that even the guardians of history could be seduced by laughter and spectacle. Videos from that night flooded the internet, igniting debates about the future of the sport. Was this sacrilege or salvation? Could a game survive without entertainment, or was this fusion the only way forward? For the Bananas, the answer was clear. The world had changed, and baseball had to change with it. The players became stars, not because of batting averages or earned run averages, but because of personality. Fans fell in love with the pitcher who danced mid-wind-up, the catcher who twerked behind the plate, the batter who serenaded the crowd. Each became a character in the ongoing play, beloved not for statistics, but for spirit. And this was the genius of Jesse Cole's vision. He had created not merely a team, but a cast of heroes and clowns, dancers and dreamers, bound together by the promise of joy. The madness required discipline. Behind the scenes, rehearsals stretched late into the night. Choreographers worked with players to perfect steps under the stadium lights. Writers brainstormed skits, crafting jokes and surprises that would land just right with the crowd. Stage managers, costumers, sound technicians, all roles unheard of in baseball, became essential to the operation. It was a theater company disguised as a team, and the field was their stage. And when the curtain rose with the first pitch, every detail mattered, every beat was planned, and every laugh was earned. As the seasons passed, the legend grew. What began as an experiment to save a failing team had become a cultural touchstone. The Bananas showed that tradition need not mean stagnation, that joy could be as powerful as competition, that a sport could evolve and still honor its heart. They were mocked, they were doubted, but they endured, because the world longed for wonder. In a time of distraction and division, the Bananas offered unity through laughter, belonging through spectacle, and magic through madness. The story of the Bananas is not just the story of a team, it is the story of a revolution in entertainment, a reimagining of how sport can capture hearts in a fractured world. It is proof that rules can be broken, that joy can be engineered, that a ballpark can be transformed into a stage, and that sometimes the craziest ideas turn out to be the truest. The yellow tuxedo was never just a costume. It was a declaration, a promise, a dare to dream bigger. And those who accepted the invitation discovered not simply baseball, but theater, comedy, music, and magic woven together in a single, unforgettable night. The lights dim, the music fades, and the crowd leaves buzzing with memories. The score will be forgotten, but the story will endure. And that is the genius of the Savannah Bananas. They have turned a game into a legend, a pastime into a performance, and a simple night at the ballpark into a once-in-a-lifetime experience. In the end, what Jesse Cole built was more than a team. He built a new language for joy, a reminder that entertainment can heal, laughter can unite, and that sport, at its best, is not about the numbers etched in a box score, but about the emotions etched in our souls. The madness is real, but so is the magic. And as long as fans crave wonder, the Bananas will keep dancing, keep scripting, keep breaking the rules, until the entire world understands that sometimes the greatest games are not played but performed,